You know that feeling when you suddenly feel kind of awkward
Mm-hmm.
or self-conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just, I don't know, standing in a crowded room or suddenly noticing the lights are really bright.
Yeah.
We all get those little moments of unease, right?
Yeah, definitely. That little internal shift.
Well, today we're digging in something specific, sparked by a listener question, actually. It's a particular fear, but it really touches on some basic human stuff. Feeling exposed, vulnerability, that kind of thing.
That's interesting.
Okay, so let's get into it. Welcome to the deep dive. Today's topic is gymnophobia, the fear of nudity.
And for this, we're looking at some material, basically a PDF document called gymnophobia.pdf. It gives a pretty good overview.
Yeah, what kind of stuff is in there?
Well, it covers the definition, what it actually is, then the different ways people experience it, where the word comes from,
Okay.
and even some surprising links to pop culture.
Right. So our mission today isn't just to define it like a dictionary. We want to try and understand, what's it like for someone with gymnophobia? Where might it come from? How does it actually affect their life?
Exactly, a proper deep dive.
So let's start right there. When we say gymnophobia, what exactly are we talking about?
Right. So fundamentally, gymnophobia is a really significant fear of nudity. Or sometimes it's more like a strong prejudice against nudity.
Prejudice too. Interesting.
Yeah. And it's important to get this when it's a true phobia. It's way beyond just not liking something.
Right.
It causes real anxiety, like deep anxiety. Often the person even knows the fear isn't entirely rational, but they still can't shake it. They can't control that feeling.
And you mentioned it's not just about being naked yourself. The document said something about that.
Exactly. That's the other side of it.
Right.
The term can also mean having really negative attitudes, prejudice towards people who are naked or maybe towards nudists.
Ah, okay. So it works on two levels then. Personal fear and like societal judgment.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it impacts the individual's anxiety, but also reflects how we, maybe as a society, view nudity.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's focus on the fear aspect first. If someone's experiencing that side of gymnophobia, what does that actually look like day to day? What kind of feelings or situations come up?
Well, the document points out it can show up in a couple of main ways.
Okay.
Some people are mostly afraid of seeing other people naked.
Right.
For others, the intense fear is about being seen naked themselves.
And I guess sometimes it's both.
Very often, yeah. It's a mix. But what's really interesting is thinking about why. What could be underneath that fear?
Yeah, like what kind of things could drive that level of anxiety?
Well, the source brings up a few possibilities. One is body dysmorphia.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it's more than just being unhappy with how you look.
Yeah.
For someone with gymnophobia, the idea of being exposed even just to themselves in a mirror can bring up these really deep feelings of shame, vulnerability,
Yeah.
all tied to how they perceive their own body.
So it's not just vanity, it's like a profound anxiety.
Exactly. A deep-seated fear of judgment, of feeling inadequate. Trauma is another potential factor, a past negative experience maybe.
That makes sense.
And then there could be just a general underlying anxiety about sexuality itself, or maybe a really strong fear of being seen as like physically inferior compared to others.
That clicks.
Yeah.
Being without clothes, it really does strip away any facade, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're just you exposed.
Totally exposed.
And that vulnerability, yeah, I can see how that would hit those deeper insecurities hard.
Absolutely. The text also mentions the fear of being body shamed. That feeling of being totally unprotected, open to criticism when you're most vulnerable. And if you think about all the pressure from society, media about the perfect body,
Oh, yeah, it's constant.
it's not hard to see how those anxieties could really take root and grow.
So how does this translate into like actual behavior? What does someone do or avoid doing?
Yeah.
The document had some specific examples, right?
It did, yeah. And they really show how much this can impact someone's life. They might go to great lengths to avoid clothes that feel even a little bit revealing or ill-fitting. Anything that makes them feel too on display.
Oh.
And situations that most of us don't think twice about, like using public changing rooms or washrooms or showers, those can become huge sources of stress.
Right, places where getting undressed is kind of unavoidable, like gyms maybe, hostels, even hotel rooms.
Exactly. Or medical facilities, needing an examination, security checks at airports.
Wow, yeah.
Even places meant for fun, like pools and beaches, can become totally off limits. The source even mentions a specific worry some people have about hidden cameras or recording devices in these places.
Really? That speaks volumes about that feeling of vulnerability, doesn't it? Lack of control.
Definitely. It underlines that deep fear of exposure.
It sounds like for some people, this isn't just, a moment of feeling awkward. It could be a really serious, persistent thing.
That's a crucial point the document makes. There's a difference between a fear someone can sort of manage, maybe work around,
Huh?
and a full-blown anxiety disorder that really starts interfering with their life.
How so?
Well, if the phobia gets so intense that the person feels totally unable to control it and it disrupts their daily routines, maybe they even start avoiding necessary doctor's appointments because of it.
Right.
Then it could signal a more serious anxiety disorder, potentially linked to things like hypochondriasis, the excessive worry about being ill, or maybe just a more generalized...
Okay, so we're getting a clearer picture now of what gymnophobia is, how it manifests, the impact it can have. Let's shift gears slightly. The word itself, gymnophobia, where does that come from?
The etymology is pretty direct, actually. It really just describes the phobia.
Okay.
It's straight from Greek. You've got gymnos, that's Gymnos, which just means naked.
Simple enough.
And then phobos, Phobos, which, as you see in lots of phobia names, means fear.
So literally fear of nakedness. Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's funny how often these terms have such clear origins. Now, the document also mentioned another related phobia, dysabiliophobia. Am I saying that right?
Dysabiliophobia, yeah.
How does that connect or differ from gymnophobia?
Yeah, okay. So dysabiliophobia is specifically the fear of undressing in front of other people.
Ah, the act of undressing.
Exactly. So there's definitely overlap with gymnophobia, right? Both involve anxiety around clothes coming off or being seen without them.
Mm-hmm.
But dysabiliophobia focuses really tightly on that process, the act of getting undressed, often when others are present. Someone might actually be okay being naked alone,
Right.
but the anxiety spikes when they have to take their clothes off if someone else is there.
So it's maybe more about that moment of transition, the vulnerability in the act itself.
That's a really good way to think about it, yeah. Now, this is where it gets kind of fun, actually.
Oh.
The document connects gymnophobia to something, well, unexpected, popular culture, specifically the comedy show Arrested Development.
No way. Tobias Funk.
That's the one.
The never nude. Oh my gosh, I remember that. He wore those denim cutoff shorts under everything, right? Because he literally couldn't bear being fully naked.
Exactly. Even when he was alone, like in the shower. It's played entirely for laughs on the show, of course.
Totally. It's absurd.
But the source material actually suggests there's a real psychological basis for it.
You're kidding.
No, the document cites several articles, places like The Conversation, NBC News, Mental Floss, Jezebel, AV Club.
Wow, mainstream sources.
All making that direct link between Tobias's fictional condition and real-life gymnophobia.
That's fascinating. So this, extreme comedic character trait actually mirrors a genuine experience people have.
Apparently so. It's one of those cases where comedy, even when it seems totally out there, is touching on something real. It definitely makes you see that character differently.
It really does. It kind of highlights that even fears that seem unusual or maybe even funny on the surface can be very real for someone.
And the fact that so many different media outlets notice that connection, it shows the concept resonates, even if people didn't know the term gymnophobia.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, so we also mentioned earlier that gymnophobia isn't just a clinical term for a personal fear. It can be used more broadly.
Right. We touched on that prejudice angle.
Tell me more about that non-medical usage.
So beyond the clinical phobia, the word gymnophobia is sometimes used to describe negative biases, or even outright prejudice against people who choose to be naked, or maybe against nudist communities.
Okay.
The source points to an article, I think in the News Shopper, and even a tweet from a professor, Annabella Pollen, using the term that way.
So it's about societal discomfort, maybe, or discrimination directed at people who are nude in certain contexts.
Exactly. This broader use kind of shines a light on our societal norms, the often unspoken rules we have around nudity and the body. It makes you wonder why society, or parts of it, might have such discomfort or even hostility towards nudity, even in situations some people find totally natural.
Yeah, it raises questions about our collective relationship with just the human body in its natural state.
It really does.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've really gone deep on gymnophobia today. We've learned it's a real phobia, often intense, that can seriously impact people's lives, whether it's fearing seeing others naked, being seen naked, or both.
Right. And we looked at some possible reasons behind it. Body image issues, past experiences, anxiety about judgment.
Yeah, and how that fear shapes everyday choices, the places people avoid.
We also dug into the word's Greek roots, Looked
Yeah.
at that related phobia, disabiliophobia.
And uncovered that surprising link to arrest development, the never nude.
Can't forget Tobias.
Hmm.
And finally, we broadened our view to see how gymnophobia can also describe that societal prejudice against nudity.
So as a final thought for you, the listener, maybe reflect on this.
Yeah.
What shapes your comfort level or discomfort with nudity?
Yeah, that's a good question.
How much of it is personal experience versus, all the cultural messages, the media stuff about how bodies should look?
It's complex, isn't it? Definitely food for thought.
It is. Hopefully this deep dive has given everyone some new perspectives to consider.